from Doggy U, and I'm a guide dog placement specialist and service dog trainer who's been in the field for 13 years. During that time, I've taken well over 50 flights with dogs that have various jobs and breeds. So today we're going to do a complete guide to how you can fly successfully with your service dog. During my time as a service dog trainer, I've taken so many dogs on their first ever flight with no accidents and no incidents. So today I'm going to give you my best tips and tricks for flying with your service dog. So let's get started. Today I'm so excited to bring you my best tips and tricks for flying with your service dog. This will be helpful if it's your first flight or your fifth flight. In this video, you'll learn how to prepare your dog for flying, how to book your first flight, tips for choosing your flight and seats, and what paperwork you'll need. You'll learn how to pack for the flight, what to do the night before and the morning of the flight. You'll learn what to expect and how to go through security, how to board the flight and get your dog situated, as well as important tips on what to do during takeoff, during the flight, and landing. I've packed a lot of tips into this video so you can be as prepared as possible for your first flight with your service dog, and even have some tips in there that might be new for you frequent flyers out there. First, I want to point out that the tips surrounding the flight are specific to the contiguous US. Alaska and Hawaii sometimes have different laws, so you should be looking those up prior to your flight. While I am focusing on the contiguous US, these tips for how to fly, how to prepare your dog, all of that will work for any dog in any country. Just a reminder that a service dog is a dog that has been individually trained to perform a task that mitigates a portion of your disability. That training and public access training typically takes 1 to 2 years of full-time training. We need to remember here that flying is one of the most difficult things that we ask our dog to do, and once we're up there, there's no getting off. It's our job to constantly assess our dog's preparedness for the entirety of the flight situation and make sure we have over-prepared them for their first flight, both to be fair and humane with our dogs and to make our flight as low stress as possible. Let's start with flight preparation. I want to preface this is not how to train your dogs to these things, but it's how to assess your dog's readiness and give you ideas on how you can prepare for the flight. It's critical that you understand dog body language so that you can assess your dog's comfortability in each of these situations and only move on to more challenging ones if and when your dog is comfortable. If you're unsure if your dog is ready for these situations, please consult a positive reinforcement or Lima trainer who can help you work through a protocol and assess your dog every step of the way. Let's start with weird surfaces. There are weird surfaces throughout the airport, whether it's going from a white to black tiling pattern that sometimes dogs can feel like it's a shiny hole that they might fall into, or you're actually boarding the plane and you have to walk over metal. I even had to board a plane with open back slatted stairs to get into the plane on this trip. So we want to prepare our dog for all sorts of weird surfaces before we ever start thinking about getting on a plane. Next is public transit. It's unlikely that you're going to have access to practice on a plane prior to flying, but you can ride all sorts of public transit to help simulate both the process and the actual downtime that you're going to have on an airplane. I try to start with an empty bus on a low travel time and then work my way up to a more crowded bus situation with my dog between my legs. Once they're comfortable on buses, I'm going to seek out Amtrak, trains, subways, metro, whatever you can get in your area. And I don't mean just one exposure. I want that dog riding frequently and comfortably on those modes of transportation to best simulate or approximate as much as possible what it's going to be like to ride on that airplane. Next is long, relatively confined downstays. This is where it's important to teach your tuck, and I like to practice my downstays at restaurants, in the house, various locations. I even like to take the dog to the movies because there you can simulate not only the longer downstay, but also the loudness that they're going to encounter when they fly on a plane. Next is a stay or wait and recall, and they need to be weird. You need to simulate what it's going to be like not only on the airplane, but also going through security when everyone is stressed and rushed, and you're going to have to put your dog in a wait and call them through a metal detector towards another person. You need to act silly and weird when you're practicing these, and you need to do them in a lot of different locations that are crowded and also places your dog has never been before, so they can be really well versed in doing stays or waits and a call through or a recall in every place they go. Finally, elevators. Your dog must be comfortable riding in the confined space of an elevator. They don't have to know how to do escalators. Escalators can be really unsafe if improperly trained, and they can even be unsafe when properly trained. But anytime there's an escalator, there will also be an elevator. There may not necessarily be stairs. If you're unsure how to safely ride in an elevator with your dog, I'm going to link a video down below on how to do that. If you're looking for additional help in how to prepare and train your service dog, check out the Doggy U community over on patreon.com/doggyu. There, I do a monthly live stream to get your questions answered. I post exclusive training videos, as well as have an option where you can get your videos, your training reviewed by me every month. We have a lot of fun over there with a lot of owner trainers. So if that interests you, check out patreon.com/doggyu. Let's talk about booking the flight. My preference is always for a morning flight. That means that they haven't had water all night, they've had a small dinner the night before, and once they relieve in the morning, they're empty and ready to fly, and then I can feed breakfast once we get to our destination. Once I've booked my preferred flight, I'm going to call the disability accommodations line, and typically I'll just Google the name of the airline and the disability number, and it'll pop right up. When I talk to them, I'm going to ask them for bulkhead seating. Bulkhead seating is the part in the front of the plane, right behind first class, that gives you a lot of extra room, a lot of extra leg room, and makes it easier for you to travel with a larger dog. Dogs can absolutely fly in the regular seating, but you will be more comfortable on long flights if you can get bulkhead seating. If you're really concerned about it, you can always pay for that comfort or extra seating. It's not worth it that much to me, so I'll typically ask for it, and then if I don't get it, then I don't get it. But you can absolutely pay for the extra seating if you want to guarantee that you're going to have bulkhead seating. Next, you're going to fill out the US DOT Service Animal Transportation Form. So I get a lot of questions about forms and certifications and what you need to bring with you. I'm going to preface this part with saying that I am only talking about the contiguous United States. I am not an expert in flying service dogs internationally, and you're going to want to check with your specific airline no matter what, just to make sure that you have everything covered. But in general, you only need to fill out that DOT Service Animal Transportation form. You do not need a note from your doctor, and you do not need any type of certification with you.
And a quick note on filling out the form. If you've used a service dog trainer to help you owner train your service dog, be sure to confirm with them that you can use their name on the form, as well as make them aware that you're flying in case they receive a verification check from the airline. If you are owner training your dog, this is 100% legal in the US, and you will simply need to fill out your name and phone number as the name of the animal trainer. How you submit this form can vary, so make sure you check with your specific airline. Some will have you email it in, while others will have a specific form online that you will fill out.
Now, as far as additional paperwork that I always bring an updated record of my dog's rabies and other vaccinations. I could need to drive into Canada on a moment's notice, or my dog could have a medical emergency, and I want to have the records with me so that I have them available if I need them. You will not have to produce them at the airport or anything like that, but it is always good to at least have them on your phone, if not a paper copy. One other note on the DOT form, if you have to book your flight last minute, like 48 hours or less, you want to bring a copy of that DOT form to the airline. Look up your specific airline and their requirements, but you do want to have that paper copy with you if you're booking last minute. So my most recent experience flying, I was flying a dog out to a colleague in Oregon, and I flew with United, and this is not a plug for United, but they did make it really easy to fly because once you booked the flight, you could click a button that said add task trained service dog to that booking, and you could even save it for later flights so that it's permanently on your account. So United made it pretty easy to do. I didn't even have to fill out a paper copy of the form. I filled everything out online, and that may be similar for other airports. You'll have to check with your specific airline. Next is packing. I prefer to be hands-free when I'm working a dog, which means I use this like giant spray backpack thing. I have a full review of it, so I'll put that down below. It's my favorite. I've been using it for 4 or 5 years now to travel with service dogs as both my carry-on and my up in the roller bag luggage situation. I hate checking bags because I do get really nervous that they're going to lose my stuff. So if you don't have a problem with that, then absolutely bring a bag and check it and just bring a small backpack. But it is ideal if you have your hands free so that you can effectively work your dog and have one free hand. Even if you do check a bag with your dog's food, it's important to have all of the essentials available in your carry-on. So I always bring at least a few days of food in the carry-on in case the checked bag gets lost, because it may be difficult to source your dog's food where you're going. You also want to have a collapsible water bowl that could be used for food or water, as well as high-value treats for the takeoff and landing. I usually bring like a stick of string cheese or some liver treats or something that's easily to transport and not too wet and stinky. I'm also going to bring any essentials that I need for my dog, such as like if I'm going someplace hot, I will pack their boots in the carry-on with me so that I have them when we land. The other silly thing that I pack is a puppy pad. So one of my colleagues taught me this a long time ago when I first started flying with dogs, and I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So basically the puppy pad is for emergencies. Say your dog gets unexpectedly ill, you can spread that puppy pad on the ground, and if they throw up or something like that, it's very easy to clean up. So, you know, they're small, they're tiny, and I always bring one, and I never had an issue or had to use it, but if I do, I have it. Let's talk about the day or two before. First, if possible, I try to give them a bath before they get on the plane to detach a lot of that hair and make them smell really nice. I also want to brush them out thoroughly so they're not getting a lot of hair everywhere. Also, I want to think about cutting or dremeling their nails if I'm going to be on a long trip and I'm not going to have access to clippers. You want your dog to look and smell nice so that they can be nice and fancy for their plane ride. Now we're on to the night before. The night before the flight, I typically feed about a third of their typical meal just to settle their stomach, a third to a half. And I also take up water around 6 or 7 p.m. And they won't have water for the remainder of the evening so that I know in the morning that they'll be totally empty before we get on a flight, especially if it's a long one. All right, so once you've prepared your dog, you've booked the flight, you've packed, you're ready to go, let's talk about the day of the flight. So the morning of the flight, the first thing I'm going to do is relieve them on leash. If you need help teaching your dog to relieve on leash, check out my Patreon, our live streams for, I believe, May and April. We talked about different options for leash relieving as well as relieving on a cruise ship. So once you've relieved them on leash to make sure that they've gone to the bathroom, the next thing I'm going to do is give them time to exercise, whether that means some time running around in the yard to burn off some energy, or if it's not pitch black out, I'll take them for a nice walk to have them burn some energy before their flight. Typically, I've already taken them on a hike the day before so they can burn off some excess energy the day before the flight. This next thing is just what I do with my dog. I want to preface it with I am not a vet. This is just what I personally do. I give my dog a little bit of L-theanine or Composure or similar type of herbal supplement that's supposed to help reduce a little bit of anxiety or stress. Honestly, it's probably just a placebo effect for me so that I feel like I'm doing everything I possibly can so that my dog can be comfortable. But I feed that with just a little bit of kibble. I want to make sure I don't feed the full breakfast until after the flight because you'll feel much more confident knowing your dog's system is empty before getting on a plane you can't get off of. Once I start heading for the airport, if it's a really far drive to the airport, I'm going to stop at a gas station prior to the airport and give the dog another chance to relieve. Next, you're going to go through security and then to the metal detector. So when you get to the metal detector, what you're going to do is ask your dog to wait, put them in a sit or a down, whatever they're better at. They're going to keep all of their gear on. You're going to go through the metal detector first, and it's going to be like the standy up one, not the do this one. And you're gonna call your dog through. So hopefully you're not gonna go off when you get to the other side, though I have had that happen, and your dog is going to have a long sit stay or down stay if that happens. So this is where your practice is critically important. Once you call the dog through, they are going to alarm probably because your gear is metal, and then they're going to be patted down by the TSA agent. When they do that, you wanna hold the bitey end of the dog. So we're not worried that the dog is going to bite. Your dog should not be a worry about that if you're going into a plane. But I do want to keep that sharp end and hold it. So I'll hold the dog's head so that the TSA agent isn't surprised if your dog like whips its head around and is like, what are you doing? So I hold the head, they pat the dog down. You're not going to have treats at this point. So you're just going to encourage your dog and tell them they're fabulous. And then you're going to go and collect your things. It's relatively uneventful, but the more you can prepare for it, the better off you'll feel going through security. Next, I might give my dog a chance to relieve again at the pet relief area if it's really easy to get to and if I'm gonna be there for a while. To be honest, I've flown a lot of dogs. I've never had a single dog relieve in the pet relief area. It really depends on your dog, but they tend to be like pretty wet or kind of gross, so a lot of the dogs don't want to use them. That's okay. I'm going to give them the opportunity to do it, and then I'm going to go to the human relief area. And typically I'm going to try to find the family restroom for that. I don't want to deal with my giant backpack and my dog in the bathroom, so I try to do in the like one little stall, so I try to do the family relief one if possible. Oh yeah, and if you're going to the pet relief area, throw your harness or a leash or whatever on the door of the pet relief area. Some of them do not have windows and they do not lock, so people won't know that you're in there. So putting the harness on the handle of the door will show that it's in use. Next, I go buy a bottle of water for later for both me and the dog. The unfortunate thing about flying with a dog is using the bathroom on the plane is relatively inconvenient and difficult. So I dehydrate myself, which is unpleasant. But for me, that's something that I do so that I don't have to worry about it, because putting an 80-pound dog in an airplane bathroom is uncomfortable. I have done it. I have gone to the bathroom with a dog's front feet on my legs. Not something that I want to do if possible, so I don't drink a lot of water or eat much before a flight. Now, if you're flying with someone, it's a lot easier. You can hand your dog off to them and then use the bathroom, but that is something that I do to self-manage when I'm especially doing a long flight like this last one from Connecticut to Oregon. The next thing I do is get to my gate with plenty of time. I'm going to go up to the counter and talk to the agent at the counter. If I don't already have bulkhead, I'm going to ask if there are any seats available that have an open seat or an open middle seat next to me. That'll give myself and my dog a little bit of extra space if they have it. If they don't, oh well, we're flying with them tucked underneath. And then the other thing I'm going to ask to do is to pre-board so that I have time to go in, get my bag put away, and get my dog settled. I've never had an issue with anyone, not allowing me to pre-board on an airplane. So that can be really helpful to get yourself settled and safe before everyone starts piling on. Next, you're going to board and settle your dog. If your dog would be more comfortable, sometimes I'll bring a small mat or something they're familiar with to show them that this is their place on the ground. It's important to note that your dog should never ever be on an airline seat. Your dog should be between your legs on the ground unless they are actively tasking. And just to note, if I can, I get bulkhead seating by the window to protect my dog from people and the rolly cart coming by. If you aren't able to get the window seat, which sometimes happens, like in this flight, I had an aisle seat, I make sure to protect the dog with my legs, putting them between my legs so that they don't stretch out, and tucking their tail underneath their back legs so it doesn't get run over or stepped on. Finally, while you're getting settled, make sure you have everything you need for the flight. So for instance, if you're going to get a book or you want to read a book during the flight, make sure that's in your seat back pocket so that it's ready to go. It's not fun to unsettle a dog when they're doing a really nice job keeping calm, quiet, and down. So I try to get everything ready before the flight starts. All right, we finally made it to the actual flying. Takeoff and landing are typically the hardest things for a dog, so I want to make sure that they're feeling safe. The plane can often angle up because we're going into the air, and that can make the dog slide. So I'm going to hold their harness or their collar to keep them in place and feed them lots of yummy snacks on the way up while the plane's making all those loud noises. If your dog has already fallen asleep, which has happened to me several times, I let sleeping dogs lie in the case of the takeoff portion of the flight. During the flight, we want to encourage our dog to continue to stay laying down. In some cases with those small seats, there won't be much of another option. So we can feed them periodically for good behavior, but hopefully they're just going to go to sleep. This should be something you've practiced and have well in hand before the flight, so it shouldn't be an issue. Finally, we have landing. So landing is a little bit different than takeoff. If the dog is sleeping, I will gently wake them because the landing can be jarring and potentially turbulent. So I want my dog to be awake for that and not jolted awake and scared. I'm going to be very conscious of holding their harness or vest or collar and using my legs to help keep them in place because they are likely to slide, which could be uncomfortable for your dog. We're gonna feed them lots of yummy treats. That's when you're gonna pull out your cheese stick or your liver and feed lots and lots of treats, nice and generous. We want this first flying experience to be incredibly positive for your dog, and you can do that by helping them stay contained, not slide, and get lots of snacks. And before you know it, the whole flight will be over. Once the flight is over, I go outside and find myself a good spot for my dog to relieve and also give them water. It's a good idea, if possible, when traveling, after they've gone through their first flight experience, to give them some time to decompress. So I might bring along a bully stick or some other bone or type of chew where they can chew it out after the flight and decompress after their first ride. All right, everyone, I hope you all learned some new tips and tricks for traveling with your service dog. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for new videos every month. And if you have additional comments or questions, make sure you put them down in the comments below. You'll find additional links in the description as well. If you need extra help training your service dog, check out the DoggyU community at patreon.com/DoggyU. And if you love service dog content and want to learn something new, check out this video here. You guys have an awesome day and happy training.
Thanks for watching and stay tuned for our next video. Subscribe now and never miss an episode.